Всем добрый вечер. Кажется, что мы в прямом эфире. Да, вот я вижу картинку. Добрый вечер, меня зовут Маргарита Осепян. Я куратор. И сегодня в гостях у Посольства Финляндии, ну, в общем, от их приглашения и по их инициативе у нас случится сегодня разговор с финской художницей Настей Сяде Рёнккё. Я вот, наверное, скажу несколько слов на русском языке, чтобы Настю представить, а потом мы перейдем на английский и будем общаться на английском языке. И в самом конце нашей беседы у вас будет возможность задать вопросы в чате. Вот. Можно задавать на русском, можно на английском. В общем, как будет удобно. Вот. Мне особенно приятно, что посольство Финляндии позвали меня поговорить с Настей, потому что мне очень нравятся ее работы, и в 2016 году, по-моему, осенью, Настя приняла участие в сезоне финского перформанса, который прошел в Государственной галерее на Солянке, и я в то время тогда работала там и, собственно, курировала эту выставку, и вот там мы показывали Настины работы, документацию в основном, и Настя сделала специально перформативную работу для галереи, который назывался «Иногда, навсегда». Ну, у Насти очень интересный подход в ее художественной практике. Она использует много разных техник, и инсталляцию, и перформанс, и, в общем, и видео, и текст, и интернет. И все ее работы — это такие своеобразные диалоги, попытка разобраться, исследовать, задать вопросы по поводу технологического прогресса, да, вот, в нашем современном мире, про экологические вопросы, ну и вообще про наше будущее как человечество, как цивилизации. И что наиболее интересно, как мне кажется, это вот ее способность, ее такая вот даже человеческая чувствительность, которая позволяет ей создавать перформативные ситуации, в которых, в общем, возможно совместное переживание. Вот, но обо всем мы сейчас более подробно поговорим с Настей. Hi, Настя. I just made a short introduction about you, but obviously, I mean, you are the best person to tell about your practice and how you got to do it. First of all, like what moved you into performance, and what were, the motivations behind that. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Now it got cut off a little bit, but you're back now. So.
Do we have a delay?
So I can hear you now. So, well, thank you for the invitation, first of all. I actually studied painting in Moscow in the Zurich Academy, and then I moved to London to study painting. And after quite many years of studying painting, I was like, I felt I had like so many objects and a lot of paintings, and I became very interested in like bodies, and I was thinking, how can I make work that communicates my ideas about like subjectivity and emotions and presence, kind of more intense and more intimate and more tactile. And then I thought like the first performance I did was actually at the Slade School of Art in London, where I painted my friend with the cake. So it was called, I think it was called like Becoming a Cake or something. And then I was smearing my friend's body with like cake, so she kind of became a painting. And after that, I really fell in love with performance art, although I don't have that work anywhere in my website because now I'm not like, it's really old. So I'm like not feeling it's relevant. But I remember the feeling of the first performance was like really powerful. I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. And after that, after I graduated, I got invited to Mexico for Performance Art Festival. And then basically that's how it all started.
But you live between Helsinki and London, and you actually have Russian roots. This is what we didn't mention. I mean, I didn't.
Yeah, so I lived in London for 10 years because I studied there. And then I've been going now I'm more in Helsinki, but I've been going back and forth. And then, of course, the kind of performance art scene is quite international. So I've been traveling a lot because of my work in different countries, which I also really love. So that's been a big part of it.
Let's talk maybe a bit about your practice in more depth, because I mentioned that you use quite a lot of mediums. Actually, you work with performative situations and installation and text and videos, and so I'm curious, how you get to mix them. How you get to the feeling oh, I should, whatever idea I have, I should use this tool to convey it. What are insights of this artistic cuisine? I think we'll show a bit of your work while you're speaking.
Yeah, so I normally idea first, or just beginning of an idea, or even a sentence or sketches, or I want to kind of research ideas, maybe for example, how emotions are dealt with in relation to climate change, or how to be intimate with a total stranger, or how to create community with different people and things like that. And then I often start thinking about what would be the best way, or what would be the best medium to communicate those ideas. And sometimes it's performance, and sometimes it's kind of performance installation or video or even a book. So I use very different mediums. I think that's kind of a richness somehow. And it also depends if I'm for example, invited to do an exhibition in a museum, or just some kind of underground performance art festival. So they're very different spaces, and there's very different sensibility. So for example, this work that you are showing now, If You Hold On, it was this night of performance in Finland, where I had this sign behind my back saying, hold me when I need it. And basically I was holding this hand weight. And I was at the time, I was very interested in about empathy, and how it works, and how do you feel empathy for total strangers, and why not? So I used to do works that are very physical, or very tiring, and then somehow involve the audience, and trying to kind of manipulate the emotions, or manipulate maybe is not really correct word, but to investigate the emotions and my emotions, and how we can connect to each other. This Cold Wind Away from 2015 is kind of similar, where I was laying on soil and there were a lot of ice, so I was obviously cold, and then there were hair dryers, so people could melt the ice with hot or warm air, and see the ice melting, and the performance finished when the ice had melted completely. Yeah,
it's very symbolic also, if you read it on not physical level, but on the emotional level. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm interested in emotions because they are something we can't really touch them or see them, or like they're not physical, but we don't really you know, they're quite a mystery sometimes, I think, but they relate to like fundamental human experience, that like what does it mean to be human, and like a lot of decisions and big decisions are, you know, based on emotions, and we operate in the daily life like based on our emotions and sensibilities.
Yes, absolutely. But it's just, you know, the civilization matrix in which we live today, all of us, it sort of puts this invisible world behind, you know, behind the scene. And therefore, of course, trying to take this invisible yet very powerful parts of human life as like psycho emotions is very important, I think, and it is very distinctive characteristic of your works. Like you can read it straight away looking at the, you know, all of your works actually.
Yeah.
But moving back, yeah. Sorry, go on. I think we do have a delay.
Oh, no. Yeah, we have a bit of a delay. Yeah, you go.
Now you go.
Yeah, I was just agreeing with you and saying that it's all, there is like this thread that connects all my work, like the medium doesn't matter, but I guess it's like this ideas of being together and power and sensibilities and how we connect to each other and to the world, and you know, kind of really big themes in a way.
Yes, sure, but I mean this division by mediums is a bit archaic, I think. In terms of like, obviously the mediums are tools of expression, but you know, not the content. So yeah, but coming back to this experience, this sort of common space that you create and allow and invite others to enter, where this sharing, the emotional sharing, and maybe even sometimes like, I don't know, crises that people can share in this space. It's a very interesting theme to explore. And I remember, because this is actually the performance which I witnessed, which you did at Solyanka State Gallery in 2016, Sometimes Forever, right? Where you were exchanging tattoo for a memory. I'm curious if you have memories about you know, people that came to this exchange, because I remember we had cues, didn't we?
Yeah, I think at the end I managed to tattoo almost everyone. But it's actually one of my favorite works because, well, the idea was kind of simple. So the idea was like, in exchange for a story or a memory that somebody would want to keep with them, I would give them a tattoo. And we, with the member of audience who took the tattoo, we would discuss what the kind of image or text would be based on that story. If, for example, I remember there was one girl who wanted to study being a movie director, and then she had been told that, you know, it wasn't right for her, but then she got into the film academy to study becoming a director, and then we tattooed director, on her, just the word director, and
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was like really like a powerful image and thing. So it was like also these stories like really, I felt, brought us together. Like we didn't know each other with people, but then just thinking about what will stay with someone forever, like I felt kind of honored to be part of it, or privileged to be part of it in a way. And then another option was to take a temporary tattoo that would last for like a week. And then I asked for a story or a memory that people would want to let go or forget. So it had also this kind of healing element to it. So if you had something that you wanted to get over, we discussed it the same way and then tattooed an image or word related to this kind of trauma onto the skin that would slowly fade. And then hopefully the idea was that this memory or trauma would kind of fade with the image also. So also this kind of being vulnerable with each other is important to me. So I don't ever feel like I don't give. I feel like I always give something from myself away in the same way that somebody else will give me something from their life or from them, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, absolutely, yes. You know, like I'm not even as curator, but simply as a viewer. For me, performance art has this, I don't know, mysterious side in a way, in the sense that it has this ability to potentially create a transformational experience. You know, it might happen, might not, when I enter as a viewer again this performative situation. So it might not, but the mere possibility of it is very interesting, intriguing, and yeah. But when it happens, I mean, I think it's a massive thing, no? When you do realize something about yourself, well, mainly about yourself, about the world, it's very powerful, I think, yes. And this work of yours sort of stands at this point, I think. But I'm really curious.
Yeah, I think. Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that's like something that I'm trying to get to, and I think also like as a viewer, sometimes you see works that stay with you kind of forever, and it doesn't mean that something, you know, spectacular happens. It can be something very slow and repetitive, but then you just somehow get into this zone that it just changes something in you. And of course, I'm really happy if or when my work does that to somebody, because as a viewer, I also get so much from like experiencing certain works.
Yeah, but you also work with geographical locations quite a lot, as you also mentioned yourself. I'm interested in, because you also live between Helsinki and London, right? So I'm curious how things are in Finland in terms of the art scene. How do you find it there yourself? And is there any difference between London, for example? And if there is, you know, I was just curious to know all these little details that make a particular location what it is, you know.
Yeah, well, I think the performance art scene in Finland is very much alive and quite strong, and there are a lot of like small events and bigger ones too, and festivals and gatherings where performance happens. And I think we are quite lucky with funding, like that there is public funding in Finland for contemporary art. But somehow there are also people who are really, I guess, passionate about it. And of course, it's like very small country, so it's a very small scene, and everyone knows each other. But like at the same time, it's really, I think it's really international. So like when I think about Finnish performance art, I don't necessarily think like, you know, Finnish artists. I just there are a lot of people from other places who work in here. And then London, of course, is like, you know, one of the most important cities. When thinking about contemporary art, or has been, like there is a lot of art and galleries and museums and artists. So it's like, it feels very much alive in that way. And I love it in there that there is very exciting shows and performances that you can see all the time, and which in Finland things move quite slow, or like obviously in London you might see things that you will never see here, or like kind of art names that you just can't see here. So it's very different, and I think they balance each other in a way, or living in both places.
Yeah, I actually, you know, I remember when I was researching for the season, for the performance season, I found a lot of interesting artists who lived and worked in Finland, but also outside Finland. And I don't know, I would say it's a lot of people with Finnish roots, let's put it this way, that are involved in performance art in a way. If we united under this sort of quality, being Finnish, it's loads of them. And I just wonder. I mean, I had a fantasy that maybe, or a fantasy, or a cliche. Maybe it is a cliche. That it's the I don't know, a desire to sort of unveil your inner world, right, and to get involved with the others, like a craving for that, maybe. I don't know. But it is joy.
Sorry, I just hard to hear you. I think there's a delay.
Yeah. But locations that you use, they're not just geographical in the physical sense. It's also different modalities, right? It's offline and online. I think these are the two modes that all of us are used to switch these days, more or less. And in this connection, I think your work that you did in London, 6 months without, is something remarkable in a way. Maybe we should talk about it in a bit detail.
Yes. So 6 months without, I think, was like the kind of longest performance, if I can say that like that. I did, and the idea was quite simple. It was to live 6 months completely offline without using internet at all in any way in London. And the work was quite like, it was everything. So it was like 24/7 for 6 months, and there was an out of office reply in my email which explained the project and the idea. So anyone who emailed me during that 6 months would get that out of office reply with my physical address, studio address at the Somerset House Studios. And there was invitation that people would send me letters and postcards to connect with me. And that became a big part of it. So a big part of my day was like correspondence with people, like people I knew, or people, also people I didn't know. Then I also like filmed, I made kind of documentary film about the 6 months. And we had seminars discussing like ideas around the internet and power, and how the internet has changed kind of society, but also like how people interact with each other, like how communities and movements are built, like so many different things. So it's a kind of in a way it's the biggest work I've done, because it was such a long duration, but also because it had so many elements in terms of materials, like what was the work. In a way, my everyday life was the work, the seminars were the work, and it was at the point I had the idea for quite many years actually that I wanted to do something like this, but then this moment felt right. It just felt a moment when people really started to realize what social media does to our mental health, and like the way we connect it to each other. And it was very interesting time, because it was before the pandemic, so it was almost like something, it was weird timing, because now I feel like the internet has been the only thing that connects us during this kind of lockdown, where people can't really see each other or go to places so easily. So the role of the internet has really, it's been really crucial in just living our lives.
Yeah, I wonder how it felt, because as far as I understand, 6 months without and the pandemic were not that far from each other time-wise. I mean, so you had to experience this contrast of living mainly offline, right, and then just being online pretty much all the time. Well, for a long period of time.
Yeah, it felt like a big part of the thinking behind the 6 months without was this idea that the world is kind of ending, not in some kind of disaster, a dystopic movie way, but that we have come to a point where everything is changing, like political, social, environmental ways, like that there has to be a major shift in the way we are if we want to survive. And then the pandemic happened after this, so it was very kind of uncanny almost, because we discussed this in the seminars, like just like a year before, basically, like how will the world be, and what's the role of the internet in keeping us together. And yeah, it's been a bit crazy.
Yeah, but you know what? I wonder if I mean, I don't know. I have a feeling we're gonna be going further into digital era, because everything around actually, you know, says this is the way. And then being offline and actually exchanging like real emotions or knowledge offline is going to be a privilege, you know, for, I don't know, for the elite, something precious for the elite as opposed to common people. But of course, this is disturbing, and I don't know if there are ways around it. But there is this hope that art is one of these sort of tools that can, in a way, change thinking, right? Anticipate the future, and by anticipation of the future, maybe shift meanings, intellectual, I don't know, intellectual paradigm in a different way. What do you think about it? How do you feel? you as an artist, do you feel it's possible?
Yeah, totally. I think art always, when the world is changing, the art always has important role in it, even if we don't necessarily think about it after. But it was like really interesting that during the 6 months when I spoke with people, it was almost like two kinds of people. So the work got really strong reactions. It was either like, oh my God, that is amazing, I wish I could do that. Like what you said, that being offline became almost like a privilege, or it became a privilege because nobody can really do it, or almost nobody can do it. And then the kind of opposite reaction was like, people were horrified. It's like, how can you live without the internet? I could never survive. Like, how can you be without it? So it was almost like polar opposite. I didn't get any reaction. I don't think that was like kind of neutral, like, oh, okay. Like there was none of that. So I think it has like, whether it's a dream, like being offline is a dream, or whether it's almost like a nightmare, it's just something that everyone feels quite strongly about. And there are a lot of like, at the time, there were a lot of like this kind of offline retreats started happening, like people would go into, I don't know, into a forest or a farm for a weekend and not having the phones and the internet. So I think it was also like the time where you have this thing on iPhone that, your screen time, those kind of things somehow happened around the same time. So I think people really started to realize what the internet does to us and to our brain and to our, every day.
Yeah, the problem is, I think all the areas of being have become a social institute now, even including arts. Art is a social institute in majority of cases. And just being social doesn't leave doesn't leave you a chance to turn around and be with yourself, like just to feel your inner space. And so I think this is one of the main dangers of digital era, of being social all the time. But your work, I think your work in many senses anticipates the future, and actually this is why we called this conversation For Those Yet to Be, because it is something about what might happen, on the way to happen, not there yet maybe, but partially is there. And the work was the same title. It's about this, right? And it happened a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
For Those Yet to Be, but also kind of really, it took forever, or it felt like forever. It took like, I think 3 years of making it, and the idea was visit places around the world that were destroyed or about to be destroyed by human activities, and I wanted to have like something like a protest, or like use the visual language of a protest in those places, like a one-person protest. So I had this like cardboard signs that I would put up in a place and just kind of walk in front of a camera and hold it up and walk off. So it was performance for video. I think that's the best way to describe it. And it was really important for me that those places were beautiful. So I didn't want to show like this landscape that were full of trash. I wanted to show that this is kind of what we have now, but kind of under the surface this happened. And the signs, the texts are quite poetic, so they're like little sentences or little poems about that place. And some of them were quite vague, like something about karma, for example. Like you don't really know what happened in that place, but you get the sense. And some were more direct, like spilled black coal, like obviously an oil spill. And together they made this, like they're displayed in a way that those 27 screens form like a semicircle in a dark room, so you can walk from one landscape to another, and it's quite meditative because I just hold the signs up and nothing else happens except, you know, you can see the wind or hear the birds or the sea. So I hope it's something like a love song to the earth, but also something that would make us think what we are about to lose if we don't like change the way we are. So yeah.
It sounds like you have a mission.
Well, I think it's what you said earlier. It's like the, you know, almost like the role of the artist, or the, like, you know, you think about the world through art, or you think about questions or issues or topics that interest you and are like important to you through making work, like whatever the medium is or the outcome is. But I feel like yeah, it's like putting questions forwards and putting emotions and thoughts like out into the world. That's how I think about it.
So then what inspires you at the moment, or what bothers you at the moment that might come out into a new work in the very near future? So maybe you could share, you know, some ideas with us.
Well, well, I because of the pandemic, a lot of things were postponed or cancelled. So I'm kind of, you know, catching up, like rescheduling, you know, filming and things like that. But working with similar things about like the power, what it means to be human in this time and where we are going and what is it that we want in the future. I think about the future a lot. So I think I will continue that. I'm also always be very fascinated with this kind of extreme landscape, like the Arctic or the desert or the snow. So I will work in those landscapes when we can travel again.
And this is for this Icelandic event, or the grant, right? Because it's a cooperative thing, as I understand.
There was a film called Iceland, Nighttime, that I made, which was filmed in Iceland, and I'm hoping to go to Norway, to the Arctic Norway next year to make another video, I think.
I see, but meanwhile, your work is exhibited at Emma, right? The Museum of Modern Art in Espoo.
Yeah, so the Photoset to be is installed in Emma until August, and it has reopened in Finland, which is really nice. And then I have some exhibitions and projects that were supposed to happen now. I'm working on them now towards the end of the year and next year.
Well, hopefully, you know, we're gonna be able to get back to pretty much normal life. and then all your projects are gonna be realized, which I wish, and I really anticipate to somehow see them. Unfortunately, you know, traveling is still unclear at the moment, but of course, in the digital era, and this is actually one of the positive things, if we think about it, we can try and catch things online. And you actually have a very good website, which you update, I think.
Yeah, I do my best with that.
But you know, maybe to end up this conversation, because I see our timing is actually running out. I don't know. What are your most maybe, I don't know, eccentric and life-changing works that really transformed you psychologically? If you could share this, if you had this at all, actually, in your experience.
Well, it was definitely 6 months without it. I think it was like the hardest work in many ways that I made, because I often felt super lonely and disconnected, just like not being online. But at the same time, I felt very much like in the presence and really peaceful with my time. And I felt I didn't have like this kind of distractions. Like if I read the book, I could read like 5 hours. I didn't like need to check my email or look at the phone. So the more time I spent offline, the better I felt. But at the same time, I felt a bit like a hermit, or like a bit like isolated from everything. So that was quite life-changing in a way that it still affects me. And then also for those yet to be, because it took such a long time to complete it, that was quite exhausting and difficult at the times. But then to see it now installed in Emma, like finished and ready and working, it was just really amazing somehow. But yeah, those places will kind of stay with me forever, I think.
It sounds like a dream of introvert, you know, your experience in 6 months without like the slowing down is actually right, is what you dream of. I wonder if we have any questions. Let me see. Just a second, because we have this delay, I am not sure my technology works here. You know what? I don't see any questions. I think I'm looking at the right place. Yeah, I think I do. But if I don't, sorry guys if I miss your questions. I mean, I wish we could speak in person, and we could. Oh, actually, we do have questions. Just a second.
Yeah,
we do. Okay. So it is said that northern countries have a very strong financial support from the state towards arts, and many artists have all the opportunities to be realized, to be to do what they want in the countries where they live, and so they don't have a motivation to promote themselves internationally. Do you think it is the case?
Well, I think definitely Scandinavia and Finland have like amazing support for the arts if you compare other parts of the world. But then on the other hand, like we don't have this kind of art market that like London or New York has, for example. So like there is funding, but I don't think it's like nobody is gonna get rich with it, basically. It's also very hard to get because there are many artists and the money allocated to the arts is very small. So it's more like, I don't know, I think it's more like exception to get it rather than a rule. And in terms of motivation, I'm not sure how to answer that. I think a lot of people have kind of motivation to work as an artist. And in terms of the grants, it's not like you can just like get the money every month and sit down and, you know, live with it. I think it's quite, you have to be quite active and always report back. But living in London for so many years where the funding is very public funding is like, you know, very minimal, it's definitely been really, you know, amazing.
Okay, another question is that are there any programs or grants for artists from Russia in Finland, for example?
I don't know about that. I think there is, yeah, I'm not a curator, so I don't work that way, but I think there is Frame that promotes exchange and yeah, I don't know.
Points as well. Yeah, and also Körne. Do I pronounce it right? Körne?
Yeah, Körne is like, for
Körne.
example, Körne Foundation. Like, I think anyone can apply from them.
Yeah,
and there are quite a few residents. So,
yeah, Körne is open for international.
there is. Yeah.
Okay, one more question. Do you know anything about interconnection between Finnish and Russian artists? Are there any mutual projects between them? Well, the ones that you might be aware of.
I can't think of any now because I guess I'm not a curator, so I don't work maybe creating those connections, if that makes sense. So yeah, sorry, that's not really helpful.
It does. Okay, let me see if there's anything else. Right, I still don't see the page with the questions, unfortunately. So maybe we should call it a day or an evening. And thank you so much for this short conversation, but I hope that it was interesting for the audience.
Thank you so much for inviting me and for the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for the Embassy of Finland, actually, for that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully we see each other somewhere soon.
Yeah.
Good evening to everyone.
Bye.
Ciao.